Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Ashtotar Tadashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Ashtotar Tadashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So on this 9th day of September 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are studying chapter 8 entitled Attaining the Supreme. Text 23 at the bottom of page 366. Oh, okay. All right. Yatra Kale tu anavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha priyata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshava yatra kale tvanavrittim Avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava yat kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava. You want to start? Go ahead. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava. Okay, ladies? Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava. Asa? Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam bhakshyami bharatarshava. Bhakta Chad.
Yatra kale tvanavrittam
Yatra kale tvanavrittim
avrittam chaiva yoginaha
avrittim chaiva yoginaha
prayata yanti tam kalam
prayata yanti tam kalam
bhakshyami bharatarshava.
bhakshyami bharatarshava. Anyone else in internet land? Vanessa? Not tonight. Okay. Yatra, at which, kale, time, to, and, anavrittim, no return, avrittim, return. Cha, also, eva, certainly, yoginaha, different kinds of mystics. Priyata, having departed, yanti, attain, tam, that, kalam, time, bhakshyami, I shall describe. Bharata, Rishabha, O best of the Bharatas. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Purport. The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as karma yoga, jnana yoga, and hatha yoga must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure of whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he is not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushan, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshura unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, we're nearing the end of this chapter. And Krishna is going to describe auspicious and inauspicious times of leaving. Now this pertains not to the bhakti yogis, as Krishna Prabhupada makes clear in this purport, but to yogis who are practicing more or less what Krishna described in the 6th chapter, which is technically called Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs of yoga, beginning with the don'ts and the do's, what you have to give up and what you have to accept, and then ways of sitting this, with your back straight, like this, and looking at the tip of the nose. I don't know how you can do that without getting cross-eyed. I tried it, but anyway, and then other things, and then controlling the breath. You put in some pranayama. Some of you may have tried pranayama at yoga studio. And pratyahara, withdrawing the senses, then dharana, focusing the mind, concentration, and dhyana, meditation, and samadhi, full absorption. Those are 8 limbs. So even with all of that, it's important when one leaves the body. The whole premise of the Bhagavad Gita, beginning in chapter 2, is that we're not the body. This is not who we are. We are the eternal, irreducible soul, conscious entity within the body. And we're part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. This is an important understanding. Krishna says in the 15th chapter, Mama eva anksha jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana. Mama eva anksha. An anksha is exactly analogous to a drop of water. If you go walk a couple of blocks down to the beach and you get maybe a little cup of water, then you analyze it, you'll find that it's the same chemical properties as the whole ocean, at least within a few miles. And we are like that. Or you can, the analogy of the sun ray. The sun is, what, 93 million miles away? Assume that they're right, the scientists got that right. And it's pouring out these sun rays, which are full of heat and light, right? So each sun ray has the same quality as the sun itself, heat and light, but it's very minute amount, you see. So we are literally qualitatively equal to God, but we're quantitatively much smaller. And so the process of bhakti yoga depends not on some artificial way of controlling the mind and senses like this, but of developing the consciousness in such a way that we're always thinking of Krishna, serving Krishna, and developing our natural love for Krishna. This is Krishna prema, which is beyond anything the mystic yogis can achieve. Mystic yogis are not practicing bhakti; they're practicing this mystic yoga, and they can transcend the limits of the body and the mind also. But their final goal, if is maybe mukti, absorbing themselves into the white light, which is called Brahman, Jyoti, Brahma Jyoti. Jyoti means effulgence. And it's not a secure position, because mukti is something that is aspired for in the Vedic culture, because it ends your being trapped within the cycle of samsara, birth, old age, disease, and death. And this is something that every living entity has to go through, not just human beings. The trees, insects, leaves, or blades of grass, there are living entities there. So eventually, after some period, they die. They leave the body, and they'll go in. And this is explained in the Shastra, in the scripture, that every living entity is, as I mentioned, originally equivalent to God conscious. So there's an evolution. You come up until you hit the human form of life. The human form of life is a great opportunity, because in this life alone, the dogs and cats, they can't understand it. Even if someone would bring a dog or a cat in here with a leash, they wouldn't be able to understand. Sometimes human beings can't understand what this means. But the point is, we have a shot at it because of the intelligence, you see? And if we have the proper association, and Haribo, Sukanto, Babu, then we can learn who we really are, what actual goal of life is, human life is, and we can strive for it. And the wonderful thing is, Krishna, right in the 2nd chapter, the beginning, he says, Neha Bhikkhavamasati. Thank you. Somehow I always forget the beginning of the verse. Nehabir krimanashosti pratyabhayo navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasa trayate mahato bayat. Thank you. Nehabir krimanashosti. I'll try to remember that. So Krishna says, not in this endeavor. Krama is an effort. It means bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness. Is there any loss or diminution? Which you can't say that about any material activity. You may aspire to make a lot of money and actually make a lot of money and become famous and win political office or whatever, and meet, so many of your goals in life. Well, what happens? Eventually, you grow old and die, and according to your karma, you're going on to next, and whatever you did, whatever you have in this life is all taken away. Krishna says, Mrityu sarvaharas chaham. As death, I take everything away from everybody, you see, except for devotees, because their assets are on the spiritual side, in the consciousness. The science is that we have two bodies. We have the gross body, everyone knows this as a body. But then you have something that we all know we have, mind, intelligence, and ego, you see. And this mind, intelligence, and ego, they don't perish when the material body dies, when this physical body dies. So what happens to that? That what we call subtle body carries us to our next gross body. So it depends on the desires and consciousness that you cultivate in this lifetime, and upon your karma, on what you do. Because everything is being taken into account. Krishna's here in the heart, everyone. He's our best friend, actually, as the super soul. He's witnessing everything, he's giving us inspiration, he's guiding us intelligence. You probably, if you attended any grade school or anything, the birds, how do they know to fly south when the winter's coming, and north when the summer's coming? Instinct. You learn instinct. No, it's not instinct, it's the super soul telling them inside, you go here, get up in the air and go, So he's our best friend. He says, Krishna says in the end of the 5th chapter, that I am the actual beneficiary of all sacrifices on austerities. I am the controller of all the planets and everything. And I am the best friend of every living entity. Suridam sarva bhutanam, you see? Which is good, which is really good to know. Because you'd imagine if you had a surveillance system, the government there, where they could read your mind, every thought you do and everything. It's a nightmare. Why? Because you don't trust them. They're not your best friend. You never know what they're going to do. But Krishna says, don't worry. Yes, I know everything you're thinking, and I'm inside. But I am your eternal best friend. Suridam. The word surit is a Sanskrit word for, in English we have so many words for friend. As a friend, or my best friend, or my dearest friend, or I have an acquaintance, So the same thing is in Sanskrit. And surit means literally one who is your ever well-wisher. He's always wishing you well. And this is Krishna. Why? Because we're his children. We're wayward children. We've wandered from the idyllic world called Goloka Vrindavan, which is a world of eternal life and bliss, eternally bliss and knowledge. That's where we belong. But we got curious about this world. We wanted to be the controller, the enjoyer, the master, and all these things. And so that's what this world is for. But Krishna doesn't abandon us. He's always here represented by his shastras, books, or his devotees, or sometimes he comes personally. And this is where where really you can see how fortunate we are in this called Kali Yuga, this age. And that is that Krishna comes to this planet once in a day of Lord Brahma. Now, who is Lord Brahma? Lord Brahma is the original person in the universe who engineers all the planets, and he sees to the propagation of the living entities and all of the, he's an important figure. So he lives a long time, really long. 311 trillion, 40 billion years. That's his lifetime. And so a day of that turns out to be 8,640,000,000 years. That's a long time. Once in that day, Krishna appears on this planet. Yeah. How do we know that? It's all coming down from the Shastra. So, but this is just, so once in the day of Brahma, and So Krishna just appeared on this planet 5,000 years ago. What's that compared to 8,640,000,000? It's like a little tiny bit, right? And Krishna came again after in this Kali Yuga. He came again in another incarnation called Lord Chaitanya. He's the one who propagated this Hare Krishna mantra, and he's Krishna himself. Come in this Kali Yuga in order to give the easiest method of God realization, which is chanting Hare Krishna and dancing. You know, we have that, you've probably seen. And then when you get a little tired, you can take prasadam. So dancing and chanting and singing and eating, that's the process. You don't have to sit like this, you know, and look at your nose, which is very difficult. So that's just 540 years ago. That's like yesterday. And here we are sitting here. And that's why we have the opportunity. A representative of his movement, Srila Prabhupada, was inspired by his own and empowered by his own spiritual master to take this knowledge out of India and preach in English. Srila Prabhupada was educated in Scottish Church's college. He learned good English. He studied English. And he would write in English, you know, because there are many English speakers in India at that time. This was in the early part of the century, like the 30s and the 40s. And so his spiritual master saw he was good in writing English. He said, you should take this science of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, to the Western world so that it can spread all over the world. And he did it at great risk and incredible. He was in his late 60s, 69, and he didn't have money to buy a flight to America, to New York. But he had a friend who had a shipping line. You know, it wasn't a cruise line. It wasn't a Queen Mary or anything. It was like a shipping line, and there was a compartment in there where Prabhupada could stay. You know, he had 2 heart attacks on the way over, and he said, "No, if I have a third one, then I'm not going to die." You know, so Krishna comes to him in a dream, and he says, "Don't worry, I'm going to take over the ship. You know, and to make it easier." So this was the first miracle. Now I lived in Miami for 6 years, from 83 to 89. And every time this time of year would come, we had to really be careful to look at the weather report because the hurricanes can blow in there, you know. It sounds like you know about Miami. You're not from Miami. So luckily while I was there, we didn't have a major hurricane hit, you know. But they would hit north of us. You know, they're always coming. So that, you know, he's coming in August and September of 1965, and across the Atlantic Ocean from India. You know that. So so Chris said, "Don't worry." So it was the smoothest trip. The captain of the ship was there. His wife was on the ship. She was accompanying him. So she made a joke with Prabhupada when they finally landed in Boston. And he said, "Swamiji, can you come back with us? That was the smoothest crossing we've ever had." And so Krishna, you know, he helped. And it's an incredible story, and it's told in a very wonderful way by Satsu Das Goswami. He wrote a biography. He had several helpers who went to India and researched a lot of the places that Prabhupada grew up in, and you know, got the details and so many things. It's a wonderful book called Prabhupada Lilamrita. But anyway, back to our point here. So Krishna here in the Bhagavad Gita, he's giving basic principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this chapter, Attaining the Supreme, there are 3 verses that kind of I always thought as a high point, not only of this chapter but of the Gita itself, and we can just refer to them again. Text 5, 6, and 7, and I'll just read the English translation. Whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So this is kind of the goal of practicing Bhakti Yoga, is that you cultivate Krishna consciousness in such a way that you're thinking of Krishna every moment. And even if you're working, you know, you may have a household, you may have a job, but somehow you integrate remembrance of Krishna into your job. And you know, like that. And if the goal is, okay, then you may retire, but then you want to do things and surround yourself with people who can help you remember Krishna. at all times. And so one who is successful and quits the body, leave the body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. There's no doubt. Then he gives the general principle. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Now, it's pretty obvious that we're cultivating our consciousness that will be with us when we die at every moment and as we live. And unlike the lower animals, we can decide to go this way or that way. No, I'm not going to see that movie. I'm going to read the Bhagavad Gita. Or I'm going to go see that movie. It's all about Nrsingadev. There's an incredible movie about Nrsingadev, half man, half lion incarnation. I didn't see it, but a friend of mine, I'm not going to name him or anything. He had a clip of it on his phone. You saw it, huh? I know. I should see it. But it's very realistic, and it's very close. It actually very close to the Shastra. What's it called again? What is it? Mahavatar Narasingha. Okay. So the point that movie we can see because it'll help us remember Krishna. Of course, we may remember him in a kind of a scary way, half man, half lion, Nrsingadev, disemboweling a demon. I'll tell you a story. This is maybe sober you up a little bit. When I joined, there was a devotee in the temple. This is 1973 in Brooklyn. And it was a devotee named Antar Mali. No one knew what his name meant. Antar Mali. So much later I learned. This Nrsingadev, you would be amazed. He was half man, half lion, and he was super powerful. And there was a big demon who had conquered the universe called Hiranyakashipu. Names are really important. Hiranyakashipu means he's really into accumulating gold, and he really likes soft bedding. And as Prabhupada said, and the bed companion, you know what I mean? So that's the demoniac mentality, the sensuality and power and money and everything. You may think of someone famous in that regard, but I'm not going to name any names. So anyway, so the story is that there was a great devotee born into the demon's family. His name is Prahlad Maharaj. And even though, and he was trained when he was in the womb, this great sage named Narada, he instructed his mother in the devotional life. And he heard in the womb, and he came out a great devotee. But his father didn't know that. He thought he went to school, he had a school set up, that he was training up to be a nice little demon. So he asked him, instead of report cards, he came back, put him on his lap, and smelled his head. This is a way in India of showing affection to children, right? Oh, Prahlad, what's the best thing you learned today? So right away, now he's huge, and he's very powerful. He conquered the whole universe, this demon. And because Krishna, in another form, had killed his brother. So this Hiranyakashipu, he hated Krishna and he hated his devotees. So Prahlad Maharaj says, he quotes the Sanskrit verse. I'll give you, I like those Sanskrit verses. Tat sarumunye asuravarya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat. Hitvat napatam griyamandakupam vanam gato yad hadamashriyeta. So his father is stunned by this. He said, where did you learn this? And I'll tell you what it means. He said, tat sarumunye. Now the English word, I'm sure this word has entered the English language, sadhu, right? It came from. But this is not, sadhu can also be an adjective. It doesn't just mean a sage and, a very, very good person. It means very good. So he says, the best thing, Father, tat sadhu manya, in my opinion, best for whom? For embodied souls, for all of us, dehinam, who are sada samudvigna diyam, whose intelligence is always disturbed just by being in the material world, because there's always some danger coming, or some politics going on, or some forest fire that's threatening or whatever. So there's a lot of disturbance. Sada samudvigna diyam. And the reason why you get disturbed is a sadgrahat. Now this is a very important point he's making. A sat is that which is always changing. The material world is always changing. Starting, we can know from our own body. We don't realize it, but today we're a little different than yesterday, right? And gradually it builds up, and I'm like, what happened to my hair? It's white. Are you kidding me? So that's what happens. That's a sat. We want to go from the asat to the sat, to the eternal, right? So now here a sadgrahat, samadhanagdiya asadgrahat, means that they're holding on to the impermanent for dear life. And we have a perfect analogy. We're right next to the ocean here. And as you probably know, some people have their own boats. You see them in their backyards, that they can take out in recreation, fishing or whatever, right? So if you go out on that boat on the ocean, it's a dangerous place, but you're secure. I'm confident in the boat, right? But it may happen that the boat may spring a leak. And suddenly, we've taken shelter of this boat, which is asat. It's not even permanent enough to get us back to shore, So there's a lot of anxiety. Now, if you're lucky, you may have a lifeboat on there or some life preservers that you can take shelter with your phone, call 911. I don't know how you do it. But you can. But this is what material life is like. We're all taking shelter, refuge of things that are temporary, and so there's a lot of anxiety. So what's the solution? He says, "Hitvatna patam griyamandakupam." Give up your materialistic life. You see, materialistic household life, because there's also transcendental household life, but that there's no ultimate shelter there. Hit vatnapatam griyam andakupam. It's like a blind well, and go to the forest. And the commentator, and meaning the forest of Vrindavan, Krishna's forest, because the next phrase says, griyam andakupam, hit vatna griyam andakupam, vanam gato, vanam is forest, yat haram ashrayeta, and take shelter of Hari, which is another name for Krishna. Now those words hit Hiranyakashipu like a ton of bricks in his head. Where did my son pick this up? We're trying to train him up to be a nice little demon. I don't know if you use that word. And now he's become a devotee of Krishna. So there was these two teachers, Sunda and Amarka, who he had hired. And he looked at them. What have you been teaching him? So we didn't tell him. We didn't tell him this, because he learned in the womb. You see, it was all the secret to learn. Anyway, it goes on like that. This is all in the book called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this movie, I haven't seen it, but apparently it was faithful to this Bhagavatam story. It was produced by devotees, obviously, right? And it was very expertly done. I mean, I saw a little clip of it, but just by accident. I'm not going to reveal how I saw it. But it wasn't on YouTube. And it looked really realistic. And, so that's something good that we can see. But there's a million other things that we can get involved in that will take our minds away from Krishna. And then the danger is at the time of death, we'll think of some of those things, or we'll just be terrified or whatever. We'll have no assets in Krishna consciousness. And our mind and the things we've thought about, we won't have an auspicious leaving of the body. Because I have a fairly nice singing voice, I've been asked to lead kirtan when devotees are leaving their body. And I've done it at least 10 times over the years. And it's always an amazing scene, because usually there's a big crowd, all of his friends and family are there singing Hare Krishna. And the devotee is lying there, and oftentimes, because I also had, by some Krishna's arrangement, I also worked in a hospital for a year as an inhalation therapist, someone who goes with the bag, and pumps, and if someone has a heart attack and takes it. So I saw a lot of people die in the hospital without any Krishna consciousness, and it's kind of from the yogic point of view, it's really tragic, because they're almost always sedated, because it's so terrifying. But that's the last thing you want to do if you're a devotee, because you want to have, be able to think and think of Krishna. So, but these departures are often very I don't want to say blissful, but they're very encouraging. The devotees are often completely relaxed, or even smiling, and they're hearing the holy names sung by their friends with enthusiasm and devotion, and it's very auspicious, and that's what one of the benefits of being part of a devotional culture like this is that everyone has to go through that, and it's actually an auspicious event when you see someone, because they're returning to Godhead. And so this chapter he's talking about, so he says, when he quits his body, remembering alone at once attains my nature, and the general principle is, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits the body, that state will attain without fail. And so then he caps everything off by saying, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, therefore Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. So this is the kind of the bare bones of the principle of Krishna consciousness, is that we want to go back to the eternal world where we came from, where our real home is. Prabhupada, he had named his magazine. He had a little magazine he would put out every month, Back to Godhead magazine. I worked on it for a few years. Wonderful, experience. And that's exactly, there's a lot in it, Back to Godhead. We were there once. We want to go back home, back to Godhead. And Krishna is giving us the central principle. And the rest of the chapter is more or less dealing with that same theme. All right, so what was the verse we were on now? 30? What is it? 24? Okay. Okay, so now he's going to describe these different times of leaving when those who are not literally devotees, but they're serious yogis, and it's the best time and they can go up and go back to Godhead. But it's important to remember it's for yogis, it's not just for anybody. Text 24. Agnir Jyotirha Ahak Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Priyata Gachanti Brahmam Brahma Vidojanaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God, in the light and an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Purport. When fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement. Now, this I think has been revised a little bit. It's not if one leaves, because it sounds like anyone, it just happens to leave. No. If a yogi leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death, but otherwise there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. Okay, so there's a distinction being made here. Those who are advanced in mystic yoga, if they're lucky enough to leave at a certain good time, then they may attain the Brahmajyoti. But later on, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes, but that's not secure. Going to the Brahmajyoti. There's no Krishna, there's no Leela, you don't have a body, you're just pure consciousness, and the advantage is, no more birth, no more old age, no more death. But how long can you stay in life just on that? In other words, you have to have things to do in your spiritual identity. So just a liberation alone into the Brahmajyoti is not secure, and there's verses describe it, you go there, then you fall down again to this world. So we don't want to aspire for that. For a devotee, in fact, it says in one verse, that kind of liberation is equated to going to hell. Because in hell, actually hell is better. At least you have a body there. You might be able to chant, something. But if you go to the Brahmajyoti, you have no body. You have no tongue. You have no voice. All you have is your pure consciousness, which is merged in the white light. Does it sound like fun, Sureshwar? He doesn't know you'd rather do that. So there's a verse. I'll give you the first two words of the verse. Kaivalyam narakayate. Kaivalyam means merging into the oneness, and narakayate means like hell. So we don't aspire for that. So now he's giving the mystic who passed, text 25. Dumo ratris tata Krishna Shanmasa dakshinayanam Tatra chandramasam jyotir yogi prapya nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Purport. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years by demigod calculations and enjoy life by drinking soma ras. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. So this business of going to a higher planet, there's many higher planets within this material world that are not spiritual, which are called heavenly planets. You can go there and life is much more enjoyable. You can live there a long time, comparatively speaking, but it's not eternal. Krishna discourages it in the next chapter very explicitly. He has this phrase, "Chine punye martya lokam vishanti," which means you can accumulate pious credits by performing sacrifices and doing all kinds of good things, and then those pious credits will take you to one of the heavenly planets, and there it looks like a credit card. Now I've got all these credits, so now you can spend them and you can enjoy and enjoy and enjoy. But at a certain point, your pious credits run out. Just like if you're in Hawaii, I got to Hawaii, you're enjoying, and at what point you try to pay for your dinner with this credit card and say, "Oh, Mr. Smith, you have another card? This one is not, it's not working." So, no, I got to go back to work. I got to go back to San Diego to get back to my job. So anyway, that's what happens. You finally use up your pious credits, and boom, you come back to this world of birth and death. You didn't really make any progress. You may have gone to this enjoyable place for a long time, but we want to think, well, what's to my eternal benefit? That's what we want to strive for, to actually go back to God for eternal life. So that's what this is all about, Chandramasam they go. And then let's see, 26. According to the Vedic opinion, Shukla Krishna gati yete Jagatak Shasvate mate Ekaya yachana vrittim Anyaya vartate punaha. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light, one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. So he's again, just to make it clear, he's speaking about the yogis, not just anyone. Purport. The same description of departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baladev Vijabhushan from the Chandogi Upanishad 5.10 3-5. Those who are fruitive laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they do not attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. Okay, so all right. Now I think we're... I have a doubt. I'm sorry?
I have a doubt. Yeah.
You have a doubt? A doubt?
Here it is written that if by accident they live at an auspicious moment, they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. 368 page.
368?
Yeah, verse 24.
Oh, we're on back to 24 purport.
Yeah, I have a doubt on that.
Yeah.
If by accident...
if by accident?
They live at an auspicious moment, they will not return to the cycle of birth and death.
But otherwise it's a bit possibly. Yeah.
So that means anyone who lives in
No,
accident.
It's not anyone. That's what I was trying to say. This all pertains to the mystic yogis.
But accidentally, that is written. If by accident they live.
Yeah, but what's the they? It's not just anyone. No. They is the mystic yogis. It's all about the mystic yogis. That's why I think some of this we've done some revising to make it clear exactly for that doubt. Because when I read this, I said, well, this sounds like a crapshoot, It sounds like, well, if you're by lucky, you lead, when the moon is this way or that way, then you get liberation. That can't be. And I did some research, and it's all about, has the mystic yogis, not just anyone. Because people are leaving at all these times, every day.
Exactly.
They're not getting liberated. All right. So then he winds it up with these last two verses. Anaite Shruti Partha Janan Yogi Muhyati Kashtana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Babarjana. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. They're never bewildered by them. They don't really care about them so much. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Purport. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths and the soul can take when leaving the material world. Disturbed means concerned about that. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. The point is, if you've got it, you develop it so you're always remembering Krishna with love and devotion, then it doesn't matter when you leave or how you leave. You go back to God. He should know that concern over either of these two paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Yoga here means bhakti yoga. Sri Rupa Goswami advises, anasaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjataha. One should be unattached in the material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called yukta vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions, because he knows that his passage to the Supreme Abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Okay, we have time. We can finish this chapter. Text 28. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapaksu chaiva daneshu yat punyapalam pradishtam adyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi padang stanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, understanding austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age 5 to 20, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in the Bhagavad Gita. Then, after retiring from household life upon accepting the order of vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmacharya, householder life, vanaprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated to the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdom, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahmajyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by the Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The words idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc. For one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in the Bhagavad Gita should learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter, it is stated clearly that the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, this word purpose has become purport, because in the Oxford English Dictionary, which gives us an insight into English, because American English and English. This word, believe it or not, purpose has as a synonym purport in one of the meanings. And there's several places in Prabhupada's books, and that's what he means here. You understand the purport of the Bhagavad Gita, and with that you, of course, understand its purpose. One should therefore learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand the Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities, forms, pastimes, names, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of the Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Hare Krishna. Thus then the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. And I would say, before we give our little poetic coda to the class, that this next chapter is one essential. There's many essential instructions in this chapter, and so if you can't come physically, you can stay online, get that class, and we'll be meeting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So let's see what's an appropriate verse for ending. So anyway, I'll give you a verse from the end of this chapter. This chapter ends with an essential verse that's repeated in the 18th chapter. And it more or less summarizes the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishasi satyam te patijane piyosime. That's the 18th chapter version. Just think of me, Krishna is saying, just think of me, become devoted, worship me, and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. And in the 18th chapter, he concludes with perhaps the most famous verse in the whole book, which means, just give up all other dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety be free. So that's the essence of it. Just learn to think of Krishna, beginning with chanting this wonderful mantra, Hare Krishna mantra. What are the glories of the Hare Krishna mantra? I'll give you a verse from the Upanishads. There's 2 verses. The first verse is, we all know this one, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakam Nam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, Natak Padatadopaya, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. These 16 names, Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, completely destroy the ills and evils caused by this Kali age. This age we live in is not so good for meditation and spiritual life. But by chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, we negate all the evils. Natak Padatadopaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. If you search through all the Vedas, you will not be able to find a better means of counteracting the ills of the age of Kali and achieving perfection in spiritual life. This is right in the Upanishads. So that's one little poem. And here's one more, and then I'll let you go. We'll have a kirtan. So Okay, so this is a verse about the holy name of Krishna. Marura marura metan mangalam mangalanam sakala nagamavalli satpalam chit swarupam sakadabi padigitam shraddaya helayava bhagavadanamatram tadayet Krishna nama. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of all the Vedic writings, it's the transcendental fruit, the very form of spirit, unalloyed and absolute. When uttered even once with faith or uttered once with none, from birth and death, it surely will deliver anyone. And in the end, it brings pure love for Krishna, spotless prem. So cast away all doubt and chant Shri Krishna's holy name. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your attention. Please stay for Kirtan. We'll see the beautiful forms of Radha and Giridhari and chant this wonderful mantra. All right.